so I would like to animate this. It would make it a lot easier, but my animation skills are pretty poor and I can't. It got complicated. I couldn't do it the way I did my turn rate versus radius video. But we're going to make some assumptions about this situation. This is a little bit high, but we're going to say that 18 degrees per second is our sustained turn, which gives us a 20-second turn circle. That's a little optimistic, I think, but and I don't know that it matters for what, since I'm not actually animating this, I'm drawing it. My arrows aren't going to be the right size anyway. But we've got two fighters, red and blue. They're very similar. They can hit the same turn circles, the same turn radiuses. That isn't necessary for this tactic to work. It's just easier to animate it that way or to show it that way. So the scenario that we're talking about, and I find myself in this situation a lot in DCS. And early on, I never could really figure out how to deal with it. And I'm still learning how to deal with it best. But what I'm about to talk about is just one small thing that can help you, because you're going to find yourself in this situation. You know, there's the merge, there's pursuit curves, there's there's the yo-yos and the scissors maneuvers and all that kind of stuff that everybody talks about and learns about and things like that. But I find myself in this situation a lot, and this has helped. So the scenario is kind of like, you know, if you've got two fighters and they're both turning pretty good turns. These arrows again are not to the proper scale, but you've got two fighters and they're both turning pretty good circles, but their circles are offset. So, you know, maybe something like this. Okay, so the blue fighter is in the offensive position here at point 1 because this aircraft is kind of out in front, like so. And as this aircraft is coming around, this aircraft is like, oh, I'm getting there, I'm getting there, I'm getting there. And then whoop, we have a flight path overshoot. And this is at basically second 4 or 3.5 or something like that. So if you're new, you'll kind of recognize this, because right in here you start getting really excited because you're like, I'm getting close to him. And a lot of times you'll try to pull lead so that you can get a lead shot here, and that's okay. You know, if you want to try to pull lead and get a shot, that's fine. But this is a really high speed crossing shot. You know, this plane is doing, you know, if the pilot's doing a good job and you're doing a good job in something like an F-16, you're going to be 400 knots plus, 375 plus, 350 plus, something like that, depending on your configuration and all that. Anything under 350, I'm not an expert, but anything under 350 knots in the F-16 seems to start getting really sluggish. It wants to go fast. The MiG-29, if this is in fact a MiG-29, you know, it's going to be something similar. I don't know the numbers on a MiG-29, but this guy's going to be cooking along at 350 knots or something like that. Now, if it's an AI pilot, he might be slower than that, but they also gain their energy back a lot faster. So, doesn't really matter. That's going to be a hard shot, but if you're just trying to get in position, what's going to happen in this scenario is you're going to do kind of a flight path overshoot. And if you're not careful, it's going to be in close. And then what this guy's going to do is right here, he's going to turn back. And you're in a scissors maneuver, or potentially he will turn that around and you'll be in the defensive position. You're either neutral or, golly, these were working earlier. We'll use orange. And that one, oh, good grief, these are garbage. So that's usually what's going to happen if in those cases. So you got to be very, very careful there. Now, if the distances are correct, you know, if you find yourself turning and turning and turning, you don't want to do this every single turn, but you just want to turn with the guy, right? And just stay offensive. So it's okay if you come out here and you just turn and turn and turn as long as you're offensive. Those overshoots, you don't want them to be too close in. You don't want to give him a chance to reverse the turn on you, but you just need to wait for the right time, I think. As long as you're staying offensive, you don't have to do anything drastic. But you're going to reach a point where you're out here and you've got this crossing shot setting up, and instead of making that turn like what we just showed, you want to do what the art of the kill refers to as driving to the elbow. Okay, so instead of making this turn and doing your overshoot the way you did, you want to relax your turn a little bit. And your arrows get a little bit longer, but this guy's crossing and he's actually looks like he's gaining some ground. Like the instinct is this guy's gaining some ground. Uh-oh, that's a problem. But you're still turning a little bit. You build up some energy, and then you just turn really hard. And you might still do an overshoot. It's possible. But if these are to scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is probably too late to make the turn. But the idea is that now instead of him being right here and you being right here or somewhere in this area, now you're here, right? And you still have decent energy because you built up and then you pulled pretty hard. You might also be here, but like you're here instead of here when he's right here. And that makes a big difference because here he can reverse the turn. If you pull hard enough to get in behind him still, you don't have energy here because you're pulling like a really high degree per second turn right here. And so you don't really have energy to give necessarily. You really need to continue your turn, but he's going to reverse it and then you're going to have to pull really hard and burn that energy off. Out here, you build up excess energy, you turn hard enough to get in this region. And now the situation, instead of being, I'm going to draw this out a little bit closer in detail. Now the situation is that instead of this, right, you have something like this. Okay, closer, but not really offensive anymore. Further away, but not really offensive. Okay, so the negative part of doing this is that if you don't time it right, if you don't do it right, you wind up far away and slow. It happens to me a lot. That's the part that I'm having a little bit of trouble working out exactly the way it needs to happen. But here the dangers are over, and sorry, I'm writing upside down. Overshooting. There's also the danger of getting too slow. You don't have to get too slow, but it's probably going to happen when he reverses. You're probably going to wind up getting slow if you're a new pilot. The danger here is creating too much distance. Okay? And getting slow. However, positionally, this is a better situation because you are very, very offensive. And now if, I believe worst case scenario is he turns pretty tight here. I got the wrong one. I got the bad one. Let's try that one. It's okay. Sorry for these markers. These were working earlier. All of these markers were. Okay, so kind of worst case scenario is he turns pretty tight and you don't want to keep up with him. You still have the chance to build up energy. If he turns tight, you can build up energy and you can turn inside of him and maybe get into the same situation that you were trying to avoid the first time. But you can also, if you're smart, you can also just kind of drive to the elbow again and do it again. So, he can turn. If you're too far away, he can build up energy. I should at least use a different color. He can kind of build up energy himself and then turn back around, and you're having to kind of like chase him and then go head on with him or something like that. Like, worst case scenario, you wind up in a merge, I think. If you fly it really incorrectly, you could allow that to turn around on you. You could wind up in something worse than a merge, but typically speaking, in that situation, even if you have a little bit too much distance there, you could have to remerge. More than likely, DCS AI are going to go vertical at that time. They're going to recognize that you got too slow. This is what normally happens to me. I get too slow, and then they go vertical, and I have a little bit of trouble following them. Or alternatively, if I'm the right distance away, if I'm not too far away and too slow, if I'm the right distance away where I want to be, the new DCS AI starts doing, and you guys have probably seen this, they start doing this. They start going back and forth trying to get you to overshoot them, and then you kind of got to get slow and sloppy. I don't really like that. It's fun, it's exciting, but I'm not very good at that part of it yet. So we're going to show this in DCS really quickly. I wanted to draw it out and talk about it a little bit, and I hope that this isn't too long. I don't know that this is a really good way to visualize it, but I've just been having a lot of trouble getting this into a form that I think is easy to understand for new pilots. But I hope it makes sense, and I hope that with this in mind, if you see it in DCS, you'll kind of understand what's going on and what you can try to do. And so anyway, we're going to show it in DCS, we're going to talk about it a little bit more, and then we'll wrap up the video. Okay, this isn't an ideal situation for showing what I want to show, but I'm going to try to roll to my port side and chase him with kind of a direct pursuit, and we're going to see what happens. So there we see the overshoot. It was going to happen anyway because of the way I was set up, and I was going too slow. I've been trying to build this to show what I'm wanting to show, but it's been kind of difficult. So now he got me to overshoot there again, which is just based on the way we've been flying, and I'd finally gotten my energy back up. We'll try it again right here. I'll try to just pursue him. And there's the overshoot, which allows him, he could have reversed, but he didn't. And I got really, really slow trying to keep the overshoot from being too aggressive. Now in this particular case, because he didn't reverse, and maybe it was best that he didn't, but because of that, I'm okay. And I was allowed to build my energy back up a little bit. He's kind of low energy too, so, or medium energy, I should say. He's higher than me probably, but we're in okay shape. He's going to start doing this like rolling scissors thing, I think. Or maybe some yo-yos. I'm actually flying a little bit differently now. I'm being more patient and more smooth now. So that gets us into close, and he's going to try these yo-yos. I pulled off the throttle. Oh, he actually reversed really well there. That was fun. So now what we're going to try to do is anytime we see him cross, and this is a little bit vertical, so it's different, but instead of pointing our nose closer to him, we're going to just kind of stay out behind him a little bit and do more relaxing, sweeping circles. And then when the time is right, we're going to pull really hard, or we're going to try to time it right and pull really hard to get in behind him with good energy. So instead of chasing him, now this is almost neutral, so I need to do something different here. Whoops. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to lose him. Which tends to happen whenever I do that. Okay, there he is. Picked him up. So we need to relax a little bit, build our energy back up. We need to point out behind him instead of at him. Okay, this is looking like a better setup. Maybe. We're still far away, so he has lots of turning room. But instead of pointing at him, I'm going to point behind him. And then when the time is right, we can kind of pull hard and try to tuck in behind him, which kind of worked there. That wasn't perfect. That wasn't exactly the situation I was looking for, but it's kind of working. So, I hope that's helpful. I know it's not much to go on, and it's a little bit difficult to even describe and to visualize, but I know that early on I was always trying to get my nose on the enemy, and I didn't really understand that sometimes, well, almost always, the long game means that you have to try to think ahead and just try to be smooth and to be patient. And not get the kill right away. So that's where ideas like this video come about. You know, I started trying to turn smoother and drive to the elbow, quote unquote, and I started dying less and killing more. So that's sort of the point here, is be patient, be smooth, don't go for the kill necessarily right away. When your angles aren't correct, you're not going to get it anyway. So a lot of people do get those crossing shots, which is fine. I'm not very good at them, so maybe I need to practice those more, which would mean going for the kill right away. But if you're really trying to get on your bandit 6, drive to the elbow. Don't point at them, point behind them. Wait for the correct time, then pull really hard with good energy. And try to maintain decent energy once you get in behind them or nearly behind them, and I think it'll work out better for you. So hope this was helpful. As always, happy flying, and thank you for watching.